Hey guys, I'm Melchi and welcome back to my channel. In the last 5 weeks, we have been discussing the art of thinking. As a recap, the topics were asking the right questions or being an inquirer, analyzing or reasoning, evaluate what you want, execution is everything or application of our thoughts, and practicing reflection. If you haven't watched the first part of the series, The Perfect You, please make sure to watch it. I would like to start with a quote by Albert Einstein. A man cannot solve problems with the same thinking he used when he created them. Knowing how to think the right way is important, but why? Knowing how to think the right way enables us to make good decisions, understand the downsides of our choices, and solve problems that we face. In this introduction, I would like to give a quick summary of each topic we have discussed in the art of thinking. The first topic we discussed was asking the right questions or being an inquirer, which focuses on gaining and collecting information. Analyzing or reasoning is where we get to go wild with our ideas. I call it the volcanic part of the thinking skills. Why? Because we get to add on and develop our ideas. Evaluate what you want is the serious part of the thinking skills, because here is where we get into realistic thinking and come out of la la land. Execution is everything or application of our thoughts is the most satisfying part of the process because it always feels great to see our ideas and thoughts in action. However, you must execute strategically. Finally, reflection. Practicing reflection allows us to learn from our mistakes. However, learning from our mistakes and using that learning is what puts the seal to the entire section of practicing reflection. I would like to end with a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. A man is but a product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. I hope you've enjoyed learning and watching the art of thinking, and see you soon in the third part of the series. Everyone communicates, few connect. Albert Einstein believed, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think, asking the right questions, or being an inquirer. Richard Thalheimer, the founder of Sharper Image, once asserted, "It's better to look uninformed than to be uninformed." Isn't that true? Asking questions is important, but why? Asking questions gives us access to more information, challenges our perspective, helps us to get out of our comfort zone, and makes us vulnerable. Asking questions gives us the key to closed doors. Sometimes we don't ask a question because we think it doesn't make sense. That's when we should remember one of the questions someone asked Marilyn Von Savant, listed in the Guinness Book of World Record for highest IQ. When I dream, why don't I need glasses to see? Doesn't that make you feel like your question made so much more sense? Asking questions broadens our perspective because the answer of a child, teenager, adult, and professional will be different. Asking questions helps us to get out of our comfort zone because we would have to speak to people whom we usually don't speak to and listen to answers that we do not want to listen. And finally, asking questions makes us vulnerable because we start admitting the fact that we do not know everything. Asking questions is fantastic, but we must ask the right questions. Asking a neurosurgeon on how to construct a building probably won't result in the best construction. I have 3 questions I ask myself before I start seeking answers. What do I want to know? Who am I asking this to? And what can I get from them? I would encourage you to do the same. I would like to end with one of my all-time favorite quotes by Albert Einstein, which was in my 1st grade classroom. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The most important thing is to not stop questioning. Let us reason, which is the second part of thinking skills. Thomas Edison said, "The ideas I use are mostly the ideas of people who don't develop them." Analyzing, I would say, is the volcanic part of the thinking skills. Because in the first part, we get answers to our questions. And when we analyze, we break down the information we got and closely look at it to gain new observations and perspectives. However, it is important to remember a few things while analyzing: big picture thinking, creative thinking, and shared thinking. Big picture thinkers go beyond what's just with them. They look for opportunities. In order to be a big picture thinker, you should be willing to learn more information and listen to more information. Creative thinking is thinking out of the box. We should think 1 in a million, not 1 among the millions. Something that comes to my mind is our smartphones. When IBM came out with its first smartphone, I bet the entire world thought they were crazy, wild, and weird. But now, smartphones have just become a part of life, and we're all hooked to it. Shared thinking is thinking with others. Shared thinking allows us to bring in more than just one brain, one perspective, one opinion. It's always better to have more opinions and ideas instead of just one. Big picture thinking allows us to seize opportunities. Creative thinking allows us to develop them. Shared thinking allows us to enhance them. This weekend, take time to analyze your answers to the questions you asked. John C. Maxwell said, "The truth will set you free, but first, it'll make you angry." Isn't that true? When we hear the truth sometimes, we go crazy because we don't like it. But sometime later, we're glad we heard the truth instead of a sugar-coated lie. Evaluate what you want is more of the formal part, whereas the other 2 were the wild parts. What makes me say that? Because here is where we get into realistic thinking and come out of La La Land. Realistic thinking will allow us to see the big picture and get a path for success. Realistic thinking will be challenging, but it is the right way to go. If realistic thinking is so important, how do we become one? Identify the pros and cons, embrace the truth, and be prepared for worst-case scenarios. Identifying the pros and cons allows us to see if the idea is actually worth it. Sometimes we may feel like an idea is fantastic, but when we actually evaluate it, our answer may be completely different. Embracing the truth will be the most important and painful part of the thinking skills. Why? Because when we do not want to listen to answers, then it will become hard for us, and sometimes the answers may not be what we want them to be. But trying hard and focusing will allow us to remind ourselves what we're actually doing. And finally, being prepared for worst-case scenarios. It's better to take decisions when we're calm and happy instead of being stressed. Evaluating what you want makes the idea realistic. Execution is the most satisfying part of the thinking skills. Most of us manage to ask the right questions, analyze, evaluate, but fail to execute. Thomas Alva Edison remarked, "Having a vision for what you want is not enough. Vision without execution is hallucination." Sometimes we feel prepared to execute our idea the previous day, but when the next day arrives, we feel scared, tired, and lazy. Action without thought is impulsiveness. Thought without action is procrastination. Did you know that 99% of the people do not execute their ideas, and the 1% who do are successful entrepreneurs? What should we do to execute our ideas successfully? We should follow MMA, or monitor, measure, adapt. Monitor the situations you cannot control. Measure, or as Peter Drucker puts it, what gets measured gets done. Adapt. If you have monitored and measured and still you're not prepared to execute, it means you're not doing things right or not doing the right thing. Be adaptive. Albert Einstein said, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." Practicing reflection. Practicing reflection is the fifth part of the thinking skills. Socrates understood the unexamined life is not worth living. Practicing reflection is the most valuable part of the thinking skills because that's where we learn everything. John C. Maxwell said, "Practicing reflection is what makes a good experience into a valuable one and provides emotional integrity." How is emotional integrity related to practicing reflection? Every single experience we have doesn't have to be positive. Some may be things that we don't like about. And even reflecting on it, no matter how it is, makes us be honest with ourselves about our emotions. It's important to remember a few things when reflecting. Set aside time for reflecting. Be in an area where there's no noise. Ask intriguing questions. And practice your learning. Setting aside time for reflection allows us to delve into the thought process. Setting aside maybe 2 minutes for a life-changing experience won't allow us to learn the most from it. Being in a place where there's a lot of distractions, we won't be able to focus. We will be distracted by the surrounding noises. Being in a cafeteria is not going to help. Asking intriguing questions is what makes reflection possible. Some questions I ask myself are, what have I learned from this situation? Why do I say I've learned this? And if I could do this again, what would I change? Every person has different intriguing questions. This time, try to find yours. Finally, we should practice what we learned. That puts a seal to our reflection cycle. This weekend, reflect on an experience that you didn't want to talk about and see how it changes you. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification button. Bye!